In the province of British Columbia, landlords can only increase rent once every 12 months, and the increase must be within the prescribed rental increase amount, which is set by the residential tenancy branch. This year, landlords can raise rent up to 3.5%, which is up from the 2% last year, but that increase amount has never been more than 4.6% over the last 20 years. So how on earth was a landlord able to raise rent 23.5% this year? In this video, we'll dive into a recent decision by the RTB which allowed a landlord to raise their rent more than the prescribed amount, and what that could mean for rental increases going forward. Make sure you stick around until the end, because I'll let you know where you can find out more information to protect your rights as a landlord or as a tenant. I'm Tyrell Boake, a realtor in Kelowna, and on this channel, I help you navigate the real estate market and provide you with useful information so you can make informed decisions that make sense for you. If that's something that you're into, remember to hit the like and subscribe buttons so you don't miss out on future videos and so that other people like you can see this video too. Most of the time, the relationship between a tenant and a fair landlord is pretty good and people get along. But there are times where that relationship breaks down or one party is asking for something that the other party doesn't want to agree to. In those cases, the RTB steps in and listens to all the facts, speaks to both sides, and makes a decision based on their findings. And that's what happened in this case. The landlord was asking for a significant rental increase, which obviously the tenants disagreed with because it was outside of the allowed amount. We'll start by taking a look at this article from CBC News. BC Tenancy Branch allows 2 landlords to hike rent by 23.5%. Tenancy Branch approved the hike due to an increase in the landlord's mortgage rate, and the hike was above the 3.5 limit. In a recent decision, the RTB allowed a pair of BC landlords to raise rent by 23.5% over 2 years, on top of the province's annual allowable rent increase of 3.5%. The RTB says the landlords were able to prove their current financial situation was not sustainable after their mortgage interest rate rose. I find the world and economic events in reaction to the pandemic were not reasonably foreseeable and have impacted the landlords. Significant increases in the mortgage interest rate occurred due to unforeseen events. Let's not forget that when these people probably purchased this property, our Prime Minister was on TV telling us that interest rates were at historic lows.
Interest rates are at historic lows, Glenn.
The decision, made in May, allowed the landlords to increase the rent of 4 units by nearly 7 times more than the annual limit set by the province. The decision said the landlords proved their mortgage rates had risen to a point where the allowable rent increases would have meant they incurred significant financial losses. According to the decision, the landlords bought a 4-plex in October 2021, their first rental property. The units in the building are 2-bedroom, 1-bath suites, and utilities are included in the tenant's rent. Before the decision, the tenants were listed as paying between $1,200 to $1,500 per month. In April 2023, the landlords asked the tenants of the 4 units if they would agree to a $500 per month rent increase, higher than the province limit of 3.5%. Their mortgage was owned by one of the Big 5 banks. According to court documents, the landlords had a variable mortgage rate of 1.9%, which stayed stable for months, until suddenly it shot up. By July 2023, the mortgage interest rate had gone up to 6.65%. According to court documents, the financing costs for the home that year had shot up to about $80,000, a big jump from the previous year's financing costs of about $46,000. Obviously, the tenants did not agree to the $500 rent increase. Some offered the landlords a $50 increase, and the landlords did not respond to that request. This obviously is one of the risks of not only being a landlord, but of having a variable rate mortgage. You always run the risk that your mortgage payments are going to go up as interest rates rise. In this case, I think they probably felt that variable rates were low for so long that there was no way they were going to go up. According to the RTB documents, some tenants argued the property was an investment and asked how it could be classified as a loss when the landlords are going to come away with $1 million house. However, the branch ultimately found that the landlords had proven they would suffer a financial loss based on a balance of probabilities. While they were seeking a rental increase of 23.5% over 1 year, the RTB found the increase significant in one installment and had them hike the rent over 2 years instead. Next, we'll take a look at an article from Global News because there's a little bit more information on it and they elaborate a little bit on the story. 2 Victoria, BC landlords have been granted a rent increase above the amount that is legally allowed after it was found they were incurring a financial loss on a rental property. The landlords purchased the property on October 28, 2021. They had a variable rate mortgage at the time of 1.9%, however by June 2023, interest rates had gone up to 6.4%, and by July 2023, it was 6.65%. Again, this article outlines that their financial costs had risen to $80,000 compared to what it would have been the year before. In April 2023, the landlords reached out to the tenants and asked if they would be agreeable to a rent increase, but the tenants said no. Some tenants argued that this was the landlord's investment, like we talked about in the last article, but the landlord said that they were not able to lock in a fixed-rate mortgage due to sizable penalties. The landlords applied for a 23.5% additional rent increase on top of the permitted annual amount increase of 3.5% for a total rent increase of 27%, saying their current financial situation was unsustainable. The RTB's ruling states that I find the landlord's evidence about incurring a financial loss for the financing cost of purchasing the residential property could not have been foreseen under reasonable circumstances credible. I find the world and economic events in reaction to the pandemic were not reasonably foreseeable and have impacted the landlords, despite them taking reasonable precautions by accessing a mortgage through a recognized and well-known lender. I find the landlords exercised care, foresight, judgment, financial prudence, and due diligence in purchasing and financing the residential property, but significant increases in the mortgage rate occurred due to unforeseen events. I find this rent increase significant in one installment, and I order it may be applied over 2 years, the ruling states. There is a misconception out there that all of the power is towards the tenants when it comes to residential tenancies, but the judge did rule in this case in the landlord's favor, showing that there are some protections for landlords in certain circumstances, but they've also protected the tenant by not allowing this rental increase to all incur in 1 year. It's going to be spread out over 2 years. Let's see what the Housing Minister of British Columbia had to say about the ruling. In a statement, Housing Minister Ravi Kahlon said that the government is taking action to fight the housing crisis, and since 2018, they have kept the rental increases at or below inflation. The policy that allows these kinds of exceptional rental increases because of financing is an old policy from the old government, and this is the first time an application like this has been granted since we started collecting data in 2021. I know people have a lot of questions, and I've directed staff to review this policy and how it impacts renters in the current context. This was obviously a unique case that the RTB felt was justified in allowing the landlord to raise the rent by 23.5%, but I'm not sure if I completely agree with the decision, because investment always comes with a certain amount of risk. I wonder if this will set a precedent, or if the RTB, along with the provincial government, will step in and make some rule changes so that this doesn't happen again. Judging by the comments of the housing minister, I think we're going to see a new set of rules or some significant rule changes in the near future. But let me know what you think is going to happen in the comments down below. If you'd like more information on your rights as a tenant or landlord, the BC government website has a ton of information on tenancies, along with answers to frequently asked questions and a list of resources to support you. I'll leave a link in the comments section down below so you can find it easily. And whenever you're ready to buy your next house or sell the one that you're in now, and you want to book a call with me, hit the first link in the description where you can book a call at a time that works best for you. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.